Well, I haven't done any Jeopardy for a while. It's always fun to do a little Jeopardy. So the category is folk tales. The answer for $800 is wall, snake, spear, cow, carpet, rope. Don't look it up on your phones or computers. You're at Mass, remember. You shouldn't be playing around on those things. You should be paying attention at Mass. Oh, I see a hand up. Close. Oh, sorry. The question, what is found in a folk tale from India in which 6 blind men describe the same thing? An elephant. Many of us have heard that at some point in time, whether it was perhaps an English class or literature class. We've heard the folk tale, and it reminds us that we're challenged. The man that was born blind perhaps knew he had to overcome something, but perhaps didn't realize how challenged he was. He was blind from birth. It's not like he had his sight and it was easy to see and easy to maneuver in life, and then all of a sudden lost his sight. A great challenge, a great frustration for many to whom that has occurred. But here Jesus seeks him out. He's sitting there begging, day to day, his routine. Jesus interrupts his routine to give him a greater gift. This interesting gospel that we're using to be in solidarity, certainly with those who are journeying toward the Easter sacraments on the RCIA journey. We realize that each of us has a unique blindness. Sometimes it's forced upon us. Sometimes it's self-inflicted. It's created by ourselves. We listen to different voices. We know in the depths of our hearts perhaps that's not the best choice, answer, path to travel, etc. And yet, we are so influenced by our peers and those around us, we don't want to be cast out or left out. And so we conform. But in the depths of our hearts, we know it's not quite right. The scribes, the Pharisees, when he is brought before them, he's cast out of the temple, out of the synagogue, out of the community. He's not part of them because Jesus supersedes what they have determined is the right process, the right path. That on the Sabbath you do absolutely nothing. You don't lift a finger, you don't tend your animals, you don't do this or do that. It's God's day, and you honor that entire day from sunset the evening before until sunset on the following day. To do anything is to be contrary. And here God is intervening. God is bringing a new opportunity for this man who was born blind. And they say, well, that's not right. Really? That's why Jesus will say that it's important to place God first. Over and above what you know in the depths of your hearts may not be the right choice, path, or decision. It might be easy and it might conform because of peer pressure or because everyone else does it. There's a lot of ways. Our human heart decides we're going to justify our actions. And yet we know in the depths of our hearts that God is there. God is trying to pull the best out of us. He gives this man sight. Can you imagine? Close your eyes for a moment. Now, without looking, without cheating, the last person you talked to, man or woman, color of their hair, color of their eyes, were they wearing glasses or not? What were they wearing? No peeking. Now open your eyes. Were you correct? Did you get it right? A lot of times we look and we see, but we don't take it in. We don't appreciate what we see. We have that unique sense of having our sight given to us. A lot of times it's on vacation, visiting a place that we've never ever been before, and just being awestruck at how beautiful it is, God's creation, something that stands out. We just go, wow, that's awesome. We stop and intentionally take it in. We intentionally imprint it on our memories, and it stays with us. The man who was born blind didn't see Jesus. He only heard him. And Jesus said, go. Do something simple, something easy. I'm not going to ask you to, do something bizarre or so hard to do that no human could achieve it. Go. Wash. Wash in the pool of Siloam. Let the clay be removed and let your blindness be removed along with it. He didn't see Jesus until later, after he was cast out by the Pharisees, by the governing class. God sought him out again and simply asked him a question. Do you believe in the Son of Man? Do you believe in God's Son, the Christ, the Anointed One? He simply says, well, who is he? Point him out to me. Now that I can see, point him out. Because I've had faith, I've believed, I prayed. And because of this unique grace, this unique miracle, because God has intervened in my life in such a unique way, I want to see him. And Jesus simply says, the one speaking to you is he. And he simply responds, I do believe, Lord. Jesus didn't ask him to worship him. Jesus didn't ask him to follow him. He simply asked the question. Because his heart was so full of profound gratitude for God's intervention in his life, he couldn't help but be completely grateful to worship God and to know his life had been changed forever. We know that we can see many things in life. We, like the 6 blind men in the folk tale, can describe it in different ways. The very same thing. What does faith mean to you? Everybody's going to have a different take on it, but it is still essentially faith. In the folk tale, it had all these attributes, but it was still an elephant. The challenge for us is to distill what is the essence of our faith. What is the essence of God's presence breaking into our lives, into our hearts, clearing and challenging our vision, our spiritual vision that sometimes gets a little bit cloudy, or we cause that intentional blindness in our own spiritual sight. When we can see a need and ignore it, we have intentionally blinded our spirit, the Spirit of God within us. Said, up, don't look. Pass by, nothing to see here, keep going. Too busy, far too many things to do. We have to be honest with ourselves. Because if we're not honest with ourselves, how can we be honest with God and with one another? God always wants to draw the best out of us. God always wants to give us a sense of healing. It may not be the healing that we're looking for or want or desire, but God sees more than we see. God knows more than we know. God knows every need we have, and at the right time provides for those needs. Are we patient enough? Are we looking in the right direction? Or do we keep looking at that empty space and saying, well, fill it up. That's what I want, right there. And all of a sudden, everywhere else around us are the riches of God. And our vision is so myopic, so focused, that we cannot see peripherally the graces and blessings of God. The man was born blind and was healed. For those of us who were born with sight, who have seen God's beauty in God's creation, can very easily blind ourselves to the power, the presence, the mercy, and compassion of God. We can blind ourselves to the call as it is presented before us, and we see it. We see it. We acknowledge it. We have to sometimes walk around it. And we blind ourselves to the grace of God, to that graced moment, to where we will become better people, where we will continue to grow in faith and strength of faith. It's far too easy to sit there on our smart me phones during Mass. What? We distract ourselves quite easily. We do it all the time. Perhaps the challenge this week is to see where we blind ourselves in conversation with others, in looking at the world around us and seeing the needs, in reaching out with love, compassion, mercy, and forgiveness, in seeing God at every moment in all things, but especially in our own lives, asking us to look within to see what is there. Not all the faults and the negatives, we see that, we know that, we acknowledge it. We ask for God's mercy and reconciliation and healing for it. But do we ask to have that greater vision, that vision of spiritual faith, to see God in all things, and to see the great potential God sees in us all the time?